it all maybe feels a little bit out there at the moment, but there is light at the end of the tunnel for us to be able to travel again. I love to travel. I love to go and see different places, to visit different countries, and to experience different cultures. But I know that if I'm going to travel, there is something really important that I need to have. And the thing that brought home to me the importance of this item was after agreeing to go out to India with a group of people and realising just a couple of weeks before we went that this item was out of date. You might have guessed it, it is your passport. And I know that I very quickly had to get a new passport to make sure that it was in date for us to go. But I don't know if you've ever thought about what is so important about your passport. Your passport declares who you are, and it declares where you are from, what place you are a citizen of. Many of us listening to this will have the burgundy coloured passports of Great Britain. Maybe you're sitting listening to this and you have a different passport, a passport of another country. But that passport declares something of your citizenship. It also allows you to travel to other places. There is a blessing from the head of state in your country to go and to travel to other places, a request from the head of state that you be able to travel without hindrance, and to do the things that you need to do, and to receive any assistance and protection where that is required as well. So we might all have different coloured passports. We might all have passports that have different countries mentioned on them. But in our passage that we're looking at today in Philippians, Paul calls our citizenship into question. According to my passport, I am a citizen of Great Britain. But Paul says in the verses we're looking at today that we're not citizens of anywhere here on earth, but we're actually citizens of heaven. I just want that to sink in for a moment. If you have a relationship with Jesus, you are no longer a citizen of anywhere here on earth, but you are a citizen of heaven. Now, one of the things that being a citizen of a certain country affords you is protections, but also it gives you responsibilities. There is an expectation about how you live your life. And it's the same for us as citizens of heaven. We experience the love of God and the gifts of God, yes. But there's also a responsibility about how we choose to live our lives. As citizens of heaven living in a different place, we are representing the head of the place of which we are citizens. We're representing God. We represent his son, Jesus, to all the people that we come into contact with. But if we're citizens of heaven, then why do we need to be here? Why should we be here? What should we be doing? There are some verses in Jeremiah that I want to draw us to just for a moment. In the book of Jeremiah, we find the Israelites in exile. In other words, they're not living in their country of citizenship. They're living in a different country. And they want to return home, but for the time being, they have to live in this other place. And God sends them a message through the prophet Jeremiah. He says to them, "Build houses and make yourselves at home. Put in gardens and eat what grows in the country. Marry and have children. Encourage your children to marry and have children so that you'll thrive in the country and not waste away. Make yourselves at home there and work for the country's welfare. Pray for Babylon's well-being. If things go well for Babylon, things go well for you." Babylon was a country that they were needing to live in at this time. And I just feel like today God's wanting to say to us, yes, you are citizens of heaven, just as Paul reminds you in this letter. but work for the welfare of the place in which you live. Work for the welfare of Glasgow, of Scotland, of the UK, of this earth. Pray for its well-being. God has plans and purposes for us here on earth. Yes, we are citizens of heaven, and we need to remember that. We need to remember the responsibility that comes with being citizens of heaven, but also that we are loved deeply by the ruler of heaven. But we also need to remember that with that responsibility of being a citizen of heaven, that affects how we live here on earth. We are God's representatives here on earth, and he calls us to work for the welfare of this world and to pray for the well-being of all people.